4 o'clock hour, and he is with us again today. Craig Smoak is over at Baylor football practice. We'll be back here momentarily. Mack, thank you so much for your time. I want to get into the NIL collective, the jerseys and the shirts and all that, name, image, likeness, and what you have, and then a couple of other questions. But last night, the WNBA, your program, the one that Nikki Collin runs with 3 players drafted, Nilissa Smith, Queen Egbo immediately in the first and second round, Jordan Lewis, just the pride you had with that.
Yeah, just, truthfully a great night for Baylor women's basketball. And, again, to see Nilissa Smith, pick number 2 and becoming the third, top 2 pick in program history. And, Queen Egbo again, same team, which I think is really a neat opportunity for those two to go to a team together. But, going number 10 and first time in program history that we've had 2 top 10 picks. And then, Jordan Lewis, the graduate transfer and who's just, who did such a great job for us on and off the court and just is a wonderful, wonderful young person, to be drafted. And that's the, 4th straight year Baylor's had a grad transfer drafted. And so, just excited for those 3, excited for the exposure for our program, proud of Nikki for, the way she handled those 3 particular individuals and feel like, all 3 of them really grew as people and as basketball players under her watch. So, again, a great night for our basketball program.
Mack, Craig went off to practice, but he didn't want us to ask you about the NIL, the names on the jerseys and all the things that have gone on with that, and that you're starting to sell those. How's that going so far, and what have the early returns been?
Yeah, I don't know that I've gotten a recent update, but we're certainly excited to do that and to give the opportunity for our young men to be able to, and our young women to have that opportunity and for us to be able to do that and provide our fans the opportunity to get jerseys with particular individual names on it. So it's I think it's a really cool step that we took as a program athletic department and getting into that space. And, we'll see what other future opportunity there is, in front of us. So, but glad we got there and I think it's a really good opportunity for our fans and our student athletes.
Mack, the transfer portal, which we could ask you about every day, every week, every year, and of course until something maybe is ever done with it as far as some sort of a managing it. But we had a story today, I'm not going to bring up the name, but a young man was at Maryland, transfers to Kansas State, was there 4 months, and now he's back in the transfer portal. Is there, did I miss something here? Is it still unlimited transfer without any kind of penalty of sitting out? What is the actual rule?
Yeah, that's interesting, and I don't know that particular case, and were they an official member of the roster? But you're able to do that one time, and be able to play right away, but just that one time. So I don't know that particular case or instance. So, but we're starting to see now that men's basketball season, particularly men's basketball, the season has completed. You're starting to see some, I'm not going to say all, but some of the student athletes entering the portal and talking to one another and asking one another, what are you getting from school? What does that school offer? And so now you're starting to have some of these student athletes saying, well, hey, school X, it's going to take a name, image, and likeness deal worth this much if you want me to come there. And I'm being real with you. And that's happening with some players that I would say are average players. So this is the reality that we're dealing with right now. This is the reality that Scott Drew is dealing with. This is the reality that we're all trying to navigate. And I don't, again, I don't think this is good for intercollegiate athletics, and this cross section of name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. That's where we are right now, and it remains to be seen if the market will correct itself. But it's not a good place to be.
Yeah, Mac, I think there'll probably be, there's obviously going to be some market corrections in that after a few years of this, if you're not a good player and people are paying out these NIL deals to you and getting nothing from it, I'm sure that the money flow will end then. But isn't the bigger issue is the kind of the system overall in that if this, if you let the forest overgrow too much, can you even purge it to clear it with all the different things that are going on? What rules can you instill to even just dial it back 5%?
Yeah, Paul, I think you're right. And Smoak, you said we could talk about this, every day, and we could probably talk about it for 2 hours every day. And so, I think there's a lot going on in this space. I think, one, name, image, and likeness and receiving compensation for your name, image, and likeness, right? And so I think there's monitoring of, is that really happening? Are student athletes really doing something to earn that name, image, and likeness compensation? Are they really doing something of value to earn that name, image, and likeness compensation? So I think that's one, right? And then just the idea of how we do this in a maybe more organized manner and fashion. And so, do we need to get to a point, place, and time where there's transfer portal windows and it's not open the entire time. So there's a lot that we're sitting here and having to deal with. At what point in time, do programs cannibalize themselves? And so when you think about collectives and donors, when do donors say, hey, I've got capacity to only give X. And so what's most important to me is making sure that I have good seats, at football games or basketball games or, softball games or baseball games. And the only way for me to do that is to give to, the scholarship foundation, Student Athlete Scholarship Foundation, and not the collective. We can only do so much. You brought it up, what happens. And there were some examples this year, some real examples of companies, putting, some big money behind, some student athletes. And, quite frankly, those student athletes didn't perform well. And so what happens there? But so there will be some correction to it, but, I don't know that. I guess in the meantime, it's a really hard space to navigate for our coaches, and I've got to believe, and this is me speaking out loud. I've got to believe, even for some of the institutions that we're reading about, and it's perceived as buying their rosters. If that's what's really happening, I just, I just don't know. And I don't think coaches are even coaches at that institution feel really, really good about how this is all falling out. And so, now do we, how do you manage those rosters where you've got, some young people that are earning millions of dollars and some not, and there was a conversation I had today with somebody about an offensive lineman, a 5-star offensive lineman that decided one school over the other because a name, image, and likeness of 1.2, and the school that lost out is sitting there going, like, if they would have even come to our place, they wouldn't have even have started. And yet we were getting into this game about bidding 1.2, and they're coming to our place and not even going to be, on the 2 deep. So this is the space that we're in and trying to navigate. And, the transformation committee, is going to have certainly a big part in this, but, we're going to have to land in a better place than we are now, because I think this model right now, the reality that we're in, that we're going through this very moment, it's not sustainable. Maybe it is for 10 or 12 institutions, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit dangerous and like the Wild West. And now, if you had that ability, if you could yourself have the ability to throw out $1.2 million or whatever, would you still feel the same way?
So that's a great question and a fair question, and I appreciate it. And Smoak, it's something that we are currently talking about a lot. When it comes to Baylor specific, right? Mm-hmm. Why have we been successful? And trying to break that down, right? And it's not because we have the most money, and it's not necessarily because when you look at our rosters, we have rosters filled with 5- and 4-star kids. I go back to our women's basketball team that won the national championship the year before last, right? Think about that roster and how many 5-star kids were on that roster. So are we now going into a time and getting into a time where there's even a bigger, higher premium on money, and for those that can spend all of that money, they're going to be at a real advantage. I think absolutely there's more of an emphasis. And so when you ask the question, if we could spend the 1.2, or would we spend the 1.2? And again, it's not us really spending it. It's
right.
It's the collectives, it's the company, it's the whoever. I think we've got to be really thoughtful and really careful about who that young person is and how that fits into our culture. If we do that and it begins to disrupt our culture, then it's probably not very smart. I personally think that if we can continue in the future to put a premium on the wellness of our people, the mental wellness, the spiritual wellness, our culture, that's how we're going to continue to be relevant and win. And again, I'm not naive enough to think that, hey, we can navigate this space without having to play the name, image, and likeness game. And quite frankly, we're playing it right now. But we're going to be careful in how we do it.
Mack, how much of it is, if you look at what NIL creates as free agency, essentially in the transfer portal, it's like professional free agency. But in professional free agency, there's market there's a market for you based on what you've done. If you are Aaron Rodgers and you're up for a contract, you can get $100 million because you've shown that you bear out the market. When you're a high school kid coming into college, or a kid in the transfer portal who's leaving because he didn't play somewhere, then that's upside down based on the economics of sports that we've all come to know and love. And that's not even bringing in the fact that we're not even talking about professional sports. We're talking about college sports, which is changing, like splitting like an atom in a nuclear reactor right now.
I think I followed you, Paul.
I didn't. I'm not that smart.
Atom and nuclear reactor. But I just, and again, I appreciate this conversation, but in a way, and I'm going to probably even be stronger than that. I feel strongly that we're doing young people a disservice, and we're now putting money in front of young people that in some instances they haven't earned, and so now you begin down this slippery slope of entitlement, and now all of a sudden we put a lot of pressure on these young people, and again, you think about ages ranging from 18 to 22, and now you receive this money, and now you got so much going on in your life, and you're trying to navigate being away from home for the first time, and academics and time management and practice and all of those things. And now we've just put right smack dab on top of you, man. You better perform at a high level, right? You better perform and equate to the money that we just provided you, or that you're going to get by doing some things in terms of name, image, and likeness. And so it's a slippery slope. And again, you go back to the intent, right? The intent was, hey, give student athletes an opportunity, okay, to earn some compensation off their name, image, and likeness. And yet you haven't even performed yet, or you've been an average player and you're transferring, or you're a prospect in high school going to college, and your name, image, and likeness hasn't even really developed because you haven't really even done much on the field yet or on the court yet. And yet here's this money that we're giving you and putting that pressure on. So that's the space that we're in right now.
I saw this story. Mack Rhoades with us, and Mack, I know we're up against the time we have you on, but this was from last week. Only 22 of 130 NCAA FBS level schools say they have plans to provide an allowed academic bonus payment to athletes this year. So right now you have cost of living. Right now there's NIL. Right now there's the transfer portal, which is free to come and go as you want. And now I'm not against if it's part of money that's earned or part of whatever, but now you have this academic bonus payment, which to me makes the most sense of anything because it's student athlete. I know I'm going to be laughed at because that's the term I still use. Where is Baylor on this? Is this something you guys are trying to gain a fund to also do this, or is that something you're already doing?
So, what you're talking about is NCAA versus Alston and this, this academic award that's tethered to academics, and it's a maximum amount of $5,980 per academic year. And so this is now permissive. You don't have to do it, but you can do it. And, different conferences have governed it different ways. And, some it's open to any student athlete, no matter whether or not they're on athletic scholarship or not. Some it's just open to student athletes that are on athletic scholarship. Nonetheless, yes, Baylor, we've been planning on it. We have a process set up. We have what those academic requirements are to achieve those monies on an annual basis. We will begin implementing starting with the fall semester, fall of 2022, and just for an example, that will be a $2.1 million investment by our athletic department annually to do that annually. So yes, we're ready to go. We're fully engaged, prepared to do it. We've made a commitment to do it. And then, as we've been talking about, you've got that piece that goes on top of full cost of attendance that our student athletes receive. And then you've got now this other element that's, name, image, and likeness. And again, we've been very, very active. We have student athletes that are, being, fairly well compensated, and, we'll have some other student athletes here in the near future that are going to be compensated extremely well via name, image, and likeness. So, but again, we're going to be careful and thoughtful on how we do it.
That $2.1 million annually, is that for the 400 or 500 student athletes, or is that per sport? Or it wouldn't be per sport. Is that throughout the athletic department? So someone in volleyball or whoever hits certain academic thresholds, they are eligible to get that?
Yeah, so that represents our student athletes that are eligible for it. And when you take the number of student athletes and you times that, and you do it by times it by the 5980, you get to the 2.1. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to divide that 5980 into two payments. There's going to be one for the fall semester and one for the spring semester, and we're not going to distribute the one for the fall semester until the spring. You can't earn it in the fall semester and then decide to go transfer somewhere else and pay it to you. You're going to have to be a student athlete with Baylor University, and so we probably have had our plan in place for the last 6 months and have talked to our coaches, but we're ready to go, and we'll be in that space, as I suspect every Big 12 school will be.
Yeah, I did see some of the others that were listed, and some of them were with the Big 12. Have you and others started to interview commissioner candidates?
No.
My next follow-up question is, right, and then you're going to hang up on us.
Yeah. No, I think, logically next step is to hire somebody to help facilitate and lead the search. And so that's the process. And then, once that's completed, there'll be, I'm certain, whoever that person, that firm is, then there'll be a fact gathering, process of them talking to people within our conference. And then I think finally you begin to develop a list and begin to, outreach to potential candidates, et cetera. So, it's still a ways off.
Well, Mack, we appreciate you always. A lot of people who are listening to us are about your transparency, and I think this is true. Someone on your staff once told me that you were in a staff meeting and said, "Let's keep this like for right now in this room," and then you joined our show and then you spilled the beans on something. Have you ever gotten in trouble for that?
Yeah, I've probably done that once or twice.
We love it. We love that.
You just did that as a favor to us.
Yeah,
that was it. I mean, you said, keep it in here. I'll go take care of it. That's all.
I forgot. It might have been Jeremiah because he likes to. We're going to have him on this week, and we'll ask him. But one time he said you walked out of a meeting, you were in the hallway doing the show, which, again, we take too much of your time. And you were like, oh, and then all of a sudden you walk back in the meeting, they're like, you just said that to them. And you just told them what you said. And we appreciate that. We really do.
Well, I probably honestly then looked at them and said, did I really say that in that? I had so many conversations, but hey, I trust you all, and look, obviously can't share.
I know,
but we want to be as transparent and let you all know and the listeners know what we're trying to navigate and certainly what's top of mind for us.
Fan bases around the country are impressed and appreciate it. So do we. Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics. There's a couple of things to unfurl. One, they will start that $2.1 million. They have a fund to start to do the $5,980. Cut that in half per semester to student athletes who hit a specific academic threshold. The list that I had, this is from an ESPN story. And let me see how many. There's 22. I can name them. Arkansas, Auburn, Clemson, Colorado, UConn, Florida, North Carolina, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Oregon, South Carolina, Iowa State, Tennessee, Texas, and Kentucky, LSU, Texas Tech, Miami, Missouri, Washington, and Wisconsin. That's about a week ago. And so Baylor does plan to start that during the fall of 2022. That's new news. He made it very clear and was not holding back information that Baylor is very much involved in the NIL business. He has kind of said that before, and it has definitely changed. And there's also those who are on Sikkim365.com. The message boards are like, hey, how do we keep up? Now, can you keep up with A&M or Texas or whatever? That's really up to you.
Well, he said, look, there's probably 10 or 12 schools you're really talking about that can do that, and then it's the market. Again, the market's going to eventually – I'm very curious to see 5 years from now, some of these companies are like, we paid this kid $1 million for what?
Yep.
And my point on the free agency thing is, look, if Aaron Rodgers is a free agent, when Tom Brady was a free agent, he can go onto the market and demand what he wants because he's Tom freaking Brady, okay?
He's got rings, blings, and also
he has
records,
all this thing we know about him. But on the coming from high school to college, like Mack said, or if you're leaving a college to go to another one because you couldn't crack the lineup at the other one, why do I owe you any money?
He also made comments without saying anybody that maybe some players who got some NIL money last year or a part of this school year maybe have not reached what perhaps was the thought or the.
I'll give you two examples: Spencer Rattler and DJ Uiagalelei. Got a bunch of money from big companies, and Spencer Rattler transferred to South Carolina, and DJ is in a quarterback. A fight for his life right now with Cade Klubnik, who's a true freshman.
Yeah, no question. Also, Paula, thank you as always. Paula, you're always incredibly loyal to us and appreciate you. The weekly interview alone is what makes this show heads and shoulders above the rest. So much great information. And many others. Bob Kramer agreed. And even Michael Davis, Texas Tech fan here, and I know we're up against a break. Got to say that Mack is one of the best 80s in the business. Really appreciate the insight he brings on this show. Bobby Estrada, come to FSU, Mack. Got a lot of respect for this man. Very open. And in fact, he was saying that most ADs, most coaches give you very generic and sometimes kind of like don't want to give too much. One thing about Mack, it'll never change because of the trust, is that he has at times been in a meeting about something. We may have heard about it. Ask him. He gives us information on it, goes back in the meeting, and they're like,
well, I guess it's out here now.
Yeah, can we now, and I'm not talking about like nuclear physics and where all the things are buried. I'm not saying that. I'm just, But
by the way, Bobby, that's the only place I will allow him to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If he goes there, it's fine.
So
I've already tried, believe me.
And so he also mentioned it's for all student athletes. In Baylor, I believe, Jack or Paul, don't they have like over 500 when you think about all the different schools and also Title IX? So that's the availability of $5,980 per school year. And if you do reach it, you get that split in half, both for the fall ones, also payment for the spring. And that's yet new money on top of what also is out there. All right.